Great. So welcome today. We're a small group. Maybe we'll be a larger group as we go along. We're going to talk about career management. I titled this 18 Steps to Empowerment. I think there's more than 18 steps actually, but I decided to choose some number that was attractive in some way. And 18 is a symbol for life. So I wanted to tie that in as well. So welcome. We're going to give it like another minute or so for people to join and to make sure I'm technologically on top of things and actually recording this, which I think I am. And while we're waiting, since there's only 5 of us, if you could share where you're from basically and what you're studying right now. And I will unmute Daniel.
I'm from Los Angeles, and I just got done with the full stack nano degree, and I'm starting the data structures and algorithms.
Hey, I saw you on the AMA the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice to see you again. Great. Excellent.
You too.
And Irina.
Hi everyone, I'm Irina. I'm based in Edinburgh, Scotland, so a bit further from the majority of you probably. And I'm studying
late at night.
Yeah, it is quite a bit. That's okay. I'm an early and a night owl, an early bird and a night owl, so I do both. And I'm currently studying predictive analytics.
Oh, very cool. Okay, excellent. And Hari.
Hi everyone, Hari. I'm from Toronto, Canada. So I'm done with the business analytics nano degree, and I have started the data analyst nano degree now.
Excellent, cool. And Zachary. Oops, trying to unmute you, Zachary. There. Nope, there.
I'm just about halfway into the deep learning degree. It's a total change for me.
Oh, what are you coming from?
Private tutoring.
In what subjects?
Like test prep, math and English.
Oh,
I've been doing
okay,
that
great.
for 15 years.
Excellent. And where are you located?
Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Okay, good. So we have one holdout from Canada and Edinburgh. And other than that, the United States is representing right now. Anyway, welcome everybody. My name is Andrea Mia, and I am technologically challenged to do these webinars, so you just have to bear with me as I go slowly clicking on things, okay? Let's see, this is not moving to the next one. Okay, I live in Portland, Oregon, and I'm an ACC certified coach. I focused mainly on tech people, basically, and creative people. My background has been in filmmaking for a long time before I got into coaching. And I care, and you'll see as we go through this, I care a lot about storytelling and how you tell your story, basically. And also about how you maximize that sort of impact for people. So that's part of what we'll be talking about today, about managing a career. And personally, I believe I've had kind of, I would say, 3 careers. So I understand about career changing and how you manage that, basically, and that careers versus jobs, which is one of the things I wanted to talk about, they're different. Careers, you're more invested in, basically, and a job is something you do for money. So that getting to today's agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about job versus career, but mainly we're just going to talk about what the mindset is when you take on a new career or you take on a new job, what you should keep in mind and how to strategize starting that job on the right foot to enable you to get what you need out of the job. But they need, that's something also, you know, it's a economic relationship. However, keeping in mind goals from the outset, basically, can set you up for success. So what are the first jobs? We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about a little bit of branding, basically. And when I say personal branding, what I mean is getting in touch with the value that you have to offer and being able to articulate it to others, and also to be able to commit to it yourself, basically. So this isn't about creating something. It's like, oh, I'm going to be a brand that wears black T-shirts and jeans, and I'm going to have this relaxed attitude, you know, creating an image, basically, when it isn't something natural to you. I'm talking about trying to get in touch with what is natural to you and then amplifying. Okay. Let's see. Up there. So I just want to double check. You're seeing my, you're seeing something that says first days now. I'm just making sure that I have two screens up and making sure you're seeing the proper screen. Is that correct? Anybody can just say something in the chat room or raise their hand and say yes. Daniel, are you seeing first days?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, just want to make sure. And by the way, feel free to unmute yourself and feel free to be interactive with this. I am not an extremely formal person, and I like the Socratic method, and I like to be interrupted. Okay, so I want to talk about when you come on a job. First things that you should do. Some of these may be totally obvious. Some of them may not be until you're there and realize, oh my God, this is an entirely new social structure, basically, and I need to figure out how it works. So one of the first things to do is, of course, review the role that you're actually going to be taking on. Identifying who the key stakeholders are. These may be internal or external ones, but the ones that you're going to have to be dealing with. Trying to define, and this is even before you get there, what are the main challenges that are going to be in front of you for your job and opportunities, meeting your new teams, and then just sort of the practicalities of things. So one of the things that I recommend first to do, and this can be, of course, before you get there, is to familiarize yourself with both the formal and the informal hierarchy of the place. Who's who does what, identify the key decision makers, and regardless of where you work, you need to know where everybody who plays a part in your experience is, and how they can affect you, basically. You also need to know all about the products that the company is selling and the services and how they are valuing business performance, basically. Each company has its own language it speaks, its own jargon that it uses, basically. And that's something also at the very beginning you need to get a handle on, basically. Understanding keywords and phrases. Then the other thing that I would say is really diving into the corporate strategy and mission of the company. You are joining a organization, joining a workforce in some way. You have to understand what the underlying philosophy is. One, so that you can master it and you can understand it, and two, take advantage of it. And three, make sure that you're actually aligned with it. It's possible that you're not in taking a job. And if you know that from the get-go, that there's something that's a little off, that you're not relating to, this is actually a good sign right at the beginning that this may not be a place that you will be growing with and wanting to stay with a long time. So it takes a lot for a company to come up with their mission statement and their corporate strategy. It takes a lot of work and a lot of thought. And if it's something that you are not, you know, relating to very well, basically, this is actually, you know, a sign that you need to think this might have not been the best mix for you. Hold on one second. I need to admit people. One sec. Welcome, Career.
Hi, welcome. Hi, thank you.
Hi, Career, where are you located?
I'm from Istanbul, Turkey.
Istanbul. Okay, fantastic. And Blanca, you just joined us also. Where are you located?
Sorry?
I was wondering if Blanca could also speak up, who just joined. Well,
Okay.
Blanca, where are you located? Okay, maybe she hears us, maybe she doesn't. Okay. Anyway, welcome to both of you. We're talking about managing your careers today, and the first things that I wanted to talk about this that we're getting into is knowing the company that you're joining deeply, and connecting with their jargon and their corporate strategy. And if you're not connecting with their mission statement or the corporate strategy, that's a good red flag for you to pay attention to as you go along, because that's something that's not necessarily going to change. Okay, one second. Why is this not moving on to the next one? Okay. So when you begin, there's a few things to think about. Setting goals, basically. Kind of everything comes down to setting goals, but we can talk about what kind of goals to set. One is to set set based on 8 items, business priorities. These are, we're going to be talking about wins, things that are the most important for your position, things to get done, basically, what you've been hired for. Another thing we're going to talk about is building your personal brand. I alluded to this a little bit earlier. We're actually going to do a little breakout exercise where we can talk to each other about what our personal brand is, and I'll give you some wording to talk about that. Identifying personal development opportunities in education. All of you, obviously, since you were taking classes at Udacity, you have figured out that you need to invest in yourself, and that learning and keeping up on the latest developments, as well as developing yourself as a person. I would say emotional intelligence is actually one of the prime things that you could invest in, making sure that you are strong in that area. Looking for those opportunities when you're at a job, but even regardless of a job, career-wise, these are the types of things that are important for you to keep working on, basically. Education doesn't stop, as all of you know, at college or grad school or high school, whatever you stop formal education. Education continues as we continue to learn about ourselves and as we continue to learn about how to maximize our effect on others as well. Creating your vision for the role. Taking the time to actually imagine what it is that you want from the experience, who you want to be in that experience, what you want to achieve in that experience. One of the most important things that every day I'm talking to people who are working on their resume and working on their presentation speech, basically 30-second presentation speech. And it's very difficult for people to be able to speak about themselves and to be able to, and it's not show off, but be able to encapsulate what their achievements are. And achievements are both soft and hard skill affairs. They are, hey, I did this activity and we became 20% more profitable. Yay, that's a real straightforward results-oriented achievement. But it could also be, I was really good at communication in some fashion, basically, and was able to bring a multicultural team together to work towards a goal successfully. This is a soft skill. When you create your vision for what you want from the role that you're taking, go deeper. than just, I want to get their website up and running. You know, that is important, of course, and we'll talk about breaking down smaller and smaller goals within that. But think about also soft skills that you want to develop during this time. Do you want to be a team leader during this time, basically? Or do you want to be a good team member, you know, and be a responsive team member? How do you want to present yourself, basically, so that when you walk out of this job, whatever the job is, and on to the next one, or you get promoted, you had a sense at the beginning of what the goal, what the vision, the vision of the role was, and whether you fulfilled that vision. So the deeper the vision, the more detailed the vision, the more successful you'll be able to move on to the next thing, basically, and being able to point to what your achievements were. There's a mindfulness to what I'm talking about, basically, versus a show up and do your job. Being engaged in a career and in personal and professional development in that way is to a great degree about being mindful of what your goals are, mindful of who you are as you act in that circumstance, and mindful of what it is that you have achieved. Look for a mentor. And this is one of those wonderful things that when it happens, it can be a godsend. And you can have mentors, all different types of mentors. You could have a mentor that helps you with your finances, a mentor that helps you with your romantic relationships, a mentor who helps you in your professional development. Mentors, but they're hard to find. And you have to actually look for them. You have to actually propose it to people at times, and maybe even be formal about it, saying, I would love for you to mentor me. It's finding the right person also who's willing to invest and be an advocate of you, and to see your potential, basically, and want to cultivate it. Mentors can be of any age. They can be of people that are what you would consider your peers age-wise, just because they know something more about something that you don't know, basically. And they're willing to invest in you in that way. And obviously they can be older. But looking for a mentor, and this is something to do both at a job, potentially if it's a big enough company, and also outside of a job. This is a way to start to get yourself a feedback loop as to what are you doing right, what could be adjusted, perhaps getting some perspective that's outside of your own head, basically, that hopefully has a larger vision, than where you are yet, and can help guide you. So a mentor is a lovely thing to get, and can be very helpful in your career. The people that I know who have had mentors in their lives, especially at the beginning of doing a career transition or getting into a career to begin with, have such a better time of it, basically. I think partially because there's a sense of not being alone, and partially because the mentor actually helps in some way. So this is something to look for. It's a delicate thing, I would say, to ask for in somebody. It has to be the right mix. You have to have the right chemistry, basically. And people can say no, of course, and some people know how to be mentors, and some people maybe don't understand what it is. The more you're articulate about what it is you want, and that's why I mentioned you could have mentors about your, romantic relationships. You could have mentors about finances, different aspects. The more you're clear on what it is you're looking for from them, what area of expertise, the easier it is for somebody to respond and say, yes, I can do that. So it's like asking for help. The more you can say, hey, please move this from A to B, as opposed to I need help, it's much easier for someone to say, sure, I'll help you move from A to B. Asking for help is just so vague, basically. So personal brand. We'll talk about this a little step by step. Give me 1 second. Okay. So the first thing is determine and prioritize your values and your passions. Something I want you to keep in mind when I say that, oftentimes people immediately go to their resume and start explaining their resume. Like, I did this, I did that. I was here, you know, at this job, and then I moved to that job. That's not what it is at all, actually. It is about what it is that drove you, maybe initially when you were 4 years old. Who knows when the vision of what has driven you started. There was one fellow we just talked to here. Let's see if I get your name right. And of course, I can't move things well to see. The gentleman Zachary, who was a tutor preparing people for standardized tests, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now what area are you moving into?
Probably artificial intelligence, I hope, or deep learning, something like that.
Okay. I'm going to play with you for a second, okay? If you
Sure.
don't mind. What is it about that that's driving you to get into artificial intelligence?
I think I've been fascinated with it for a long time, and it seems like there are things happening in the field right now that make it possible to do stuff that couldn't have been done even 2 or 3 years ago. So that's exciting to me.
Okay. I have a question for you about what you went into originally, which is, you know, helping people standardize with their standardized test preparation versus AI. I would like to know what you think is similar about those two activities.
I guess the thing I think about a lot is about understanding deeper structures of how people are thinking or processing information. Which is what a neural network would do. It's a different kind of processing, but it's still about having insight into translating experience into action. Is that abstract?
That's a little abstract. I'm playing with you, so to
sure.
sense for everybody of what I'm talking about. When is the first time that you experienced this sort of interest in how people interact in that way, how neural networks work as far as education goes?
I mean, it's been 20 years plus. It's my whole undergraduate, I took computer science and psychology and tried to sort of find the overlap between those two things.
Okay, excellent. And how did you come up with computer science and psychology? What was it that was exciting that put those two things together?
Wow, I mean, they were the two best programs at my school, partly, but also I wanted to study cognitive science and they didn't have it. I just, psychology is about how a human mind works, and computer science is a different way of sort of structuring information. And there's overlaps between the two that are kind of really helpful and interesting.
Okay.
So sorry, it's weird.
Yeah, no, by the way, this sort of inquiry can be kind of tough to do.
Okay.
Because, and I'm not saying that we've gotten to the conclusion of it yet, but I'm using you as an example in this way and sharing with you some of the inquiry that goes into it, in the sense that what we're trying to pull out is, what is your thematic in life as it relates to your professional drive?
Teaching,
yeah. So teaching, you know,
teaching people, teaching computers, same thing.
Yeah, it is. And why you like teaching, you think?
Why do I like it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredibly fascinating. It's probably, I mean, education is really, I think, the tool to heal the world, if that's a way to put it.
Okay.
I think,
And you
educated,
care about that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So this is your method to engage and heal the world, is through education that can manifest manifest as a teacher or manifest as teaching a computer how to teach.
Yeah.
Okay. So and Zach may hear this, and I hope all of you hear this to some degree, that is like a thematic in some way, okay? That's tapping into the greater thing that now if you introduced yourself to me and you told me a little bit about what drove you basically from the beginning, that you want to affect people and that you want to do that through education, whether it be neural networks or teaching people how to take tests. That wasn't very articulate, but whatever.
Yeah.
That can be wordsmith. That that systems, you know, being able to present systems and helping people learn through those systems as well is an important value, and one that you're driven to do. Does that make sense?
That's great.
Zach, first of all.
Yeah, that's actually really, that's succinct and wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, so this is what we want to do, all of us, basically, to get to that as close as you can to the sort of original kernel of what it is that is driving you through all these different careers that you might have, through all these different jobs that you might have, some of which will be aligned with that mission and some which may not be aligned. And that's usually the ones you leave faster, basically. So step 2, defining your key traits. I think we did some of that in this. Developing your personal image. So this is one that for me, this is always a tough one. You know, there are people that, and you know them. Steve Jobs is an excellent example of one. He figured out an image and he stuck with it, basically. And it was comfortable for him. Who's the other guy, the Facebook guy? Zuckerberg. Another one. Decided t-shirts was his thing, stuck with it. Whatever it is, whatever your image is that you want to create, it has to be something that you are comfortable with. But it also has to be a decision. If you decide you want to be known as the sloppy guy, the one who doesn't care, okay, but just know that you're making that decision. You're making that choice, that is going to be your personal brand, your image. So I'm not saying go and create one. Go and create, you know, dress in fancy professional gear, you know, all day, and wear a lot of makeup, or only dress in 3-piece suits. That may not be what's natural for you, but make a choice as to how you want to present for yourself. I remember as I was growing up, I was always told, dress not for the position that you're in, but for the position you aspire to. I sort of agree with that to some degree, you know, that you want to inspire yourself basically with your dress, that you feel comfortable and good and strong. But the main point of number 3 is make some decision about this and be consistent about it as well. Whatever it is that you choosing. And I'm not encouraging you to choose to be a slob. And say, well, I chose it, that's what it is. You know, consider if that is the image that you want, that you think is comfortable and good for yourself and will communicate what is of value to you as well. So yes, if being a slob is of value to you, then I guess that is right. But
excuse me, I'm just wondering, I have a question, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering why it's such of importance or does it is it important because it implies that we are consistent, or are we are trustable with our consistent image? Is that why is it so important?
It's important because it's what you're doing to represent yourself, basically. And so I'm not saying if you wear a different color t-shirt every day, that that's somehow not consistent, and that then people won't know what to expect from you. What I'm saying is that making a choice as to how you're going to present yourself and committing to that vision of yourself, which could have great variety within it. So I'm not saying it has to be a t-shirt every day. It has to be like Steve Jobs and his turtleneck. But it does have to be a choice, and it is part of how people will react to you. Your smells, your clothing, basically, your personal hygiene. These are how people are. We're human beings and we're animals, basically. This is how we relate to each other. We see what's on the surface, or we smell what's on the surface, and we have reactions to it. And you want to minimize negative reactions and maximize positive ones and consistent ones, that I can recognize you as that this is part of your brand, basically. I have a friend who is used to make clothing for herself. She is a beautiful woman who is always impeccably dressed, always her hair is done, always her clothing is perfectly aligned. And it's not that she has great wealth or even, I would say, like that I think her taste is that good, but boy, does she know how to put herself together and is always in this presentable mode. She has decided that her personal brand is that, basically, that she will dress professionally even to go play tennis on some level. It's always a put together image. I'm not saying that that should be yours. What I'm saying is that she's made it clear what to expect from her, basically, and how she shows up for herself, and therefore how she's showing up for others as well. Does that answer your question, Career?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Let's take a moment. Any other questions so far about what I've talked about? Okay. Yeah? You can just unmute yourself and ask. So another thing is building your online presence. So there's LinkedIn being the most important aspect of this as far as professional presence goes. GitHub, for many of you, is another area that's important to be able to talk through projects that you have and to be able to present yourself. If you're a UX designer, really being able to show that you have some sort of vision, basically, when you create design, and that people can, and you can walk them through what this is. Those are three areas potentially that need to be developed, but you also have to consider other things that you might be doing online. On LinkedIn, you know, are you making comments, and are they thoughtful comments on thought leaders' sites, basically, or, you know, following what they're saying? Are you starting to become a known quantity in online, you know, whether in LinkedIn or professional groups in some way? And what is your online presence? Are you the person that just likes everything? Are you the person that never says anything? Are you the person that always makes a, you know, intelligent, kind of interesting comment or funny comment? Are you the person that really connects with a lot of people in your arena, your area of expertise, you know, and becomes a connector type person and says, oh, by the way, you should know Jake, he's doing something interesting while you're talking to Jill. So what is your online presence, basically, and building one that you respect and that you feel comfortable maintaining as well. So I'm not talking about the make sure you don't put crap on Facebook that everybody can see. And, you know, some of these things are obvious on some level of, you know, keep your privacy, and the things that are not about your professional persona, keep them offline, keep them not easily found, basically. Build the persona that you respect in your professional life, and make sure that that is what people see. Follow in the footsteps of an expert. You know, this is a way that you can get a sense of this. I sort of want to use Steve Jobs as an example, but I can use anyone, basically. The point is, if there is somebody that you think is fabulous in your world, whatever world, you know, whether it's development that you're in, or education, whatever the area might be, see how they got to where they got. How are they presenting themselves, even professionally? Are they putting information out there for people for free? Are they, how do they hold themselves? How do they present themselves? It's okay to look at people who have come before, and to, as you're modeling yourself, take some of the best from other people and model yourself in that way. Still do it on your own terms, in your own way, but it's okay to model yourself on something that you respect in someone else, and especially someone in a field that you are going into. Okay. So I want us to do an exercise that we're going to, since we're a group of 8 people, we can all do it together. This phrase here that you see, give me 1 second to do something here. I'm not presenting this as like this is the begin all end all one to use, okay? But it gives us a starting ground, basically. So I want to give you an example of mine, and I'm going to say it a little bit slowly, okay? And I want you to look at this phrase here, which is actually 3 phrases, and start to think of how you would fill this in, okay? So I will give you mine so we get an example, okay? And by the way, whatever comes up quickly, go with that. Don't overthink this one too much. I think I wrote mine in like the whole of 15 seconds when I was just thinking about it, okay? I didn't wordsmith it. I didn't play with it. I just said, okay, this is it. So I said, for mine, I use my sense of humor and warm personality for winning clients. Known for intelligent and strategic thinking, using my experience as a filmmaker and a storyteller, I help others tell their stories by providing career coaching advice. So I use my humor and warm personality. I use something about my personality, basically. And for what purpose? Changing the world, maybe. I don't know. And what am I known for? Something I want you all to think about this known for thing, and about this exercise in general, which we'll get to really quickly and sort of practice on each other. If you don't have a clear sense of yourself, or you haven't had the opportunity to go through what Zach and I were just doing, basically, with somebody, a really great way to start to figure out what your personal brand is to interview people who know you well. Your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your best friend, your really smart, maybe not so best friend who understands you. Interview them and ask them who they think you are. So I'm getting to this phrase of what am I known for, basically. Listen for those key words that they use. Probably there will be a consistent story that comes out of this as to who you are. And that's, you know, it's not that everybody is right, and somehow, and you may disagree with this. You need to have some sense of what you are perceived as well. That doesn't mean that it has to be who you are, and what you say you're known for is based on their words. However, this is an excellent place to jump off from, basically, and to take seriously what it is that people say about you. I think oftentimes people don't value themselves as much as others can value them. And so this is also a good exercise in hearing, you know, what you are valued for. And also maybe what you aren't valued for, you know, maybe things that you do that you're not so proud of, and it'll give you feedback that way as well. So, and the last one is using what, you know, your computer skills. I don't know, using something, basically, some skill that you have. I provide something for others, basically. That didn't sound very good. But mine was using my experience as a filmmaker and storyteller. I help others tell their stories by providing career coaching advice. So as you can see, I put in a lot of words between the commas there. It wasn't just one word, even though that's what the space I'm giving for right now. Okay, let's do this. Okay, we are all okay. I've just invited all of you to join a group, so please join. We'll have one group. We all on together?
Yes.
Okay. Near? So I'd like you to, the exercise that we had, which I guess you can't see at the same time as we can see ourselves, is that right? Yeah. You can't see my screen, right?
You can still share it. You should be able to share it, Andrea.
Okay, let me give me 1 second. Ah, yeah. Okay, so can you all see that now?
Not yet.
No, not yet. Okay. Well, hopefully you wrote down a couple of little notes. Right? Sorry about that. Yeah, because I'm not seeing it, so I'm not sure. But I can see all your lovely faces, so that's a good thing. What I'd like us to do is I'd like us to try a little bit of this ourselves. Be able to present ourselves, basically. So who would like to go first?
I'll try.
I can go for it.
Yeah, Rina.
Yes. Okay.
Marina, go ahead, Marina.
Sorry.
I'll do it because I wrote down stuff already.
Okay, excellent.
That is if I understood the whole exercise correctly. So for the first phrase, I guess I said something in the lines of, I use my analytical thinking and ability to motivate to drive action.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe less personified.
Action. Action is a little not sure.
I don't know.
Okay.
Very task orientated. So that's
You're
my
very
problem.
task oriented. Okay, no. That actually is great, that you love seeing something finished. Okay, that may be part of what it is to focus on. Keep going. Sorry.
In my second line, I couldn't quite understand the second part, really, what we're supposed to be doing, but it's something in the lines that I'm known for being task orientated.
Yes. Okay.
And I don't know, do we need to put two? Kind of.
No, not necessarily. I just did it with two because.
Yeah, I might think of another kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. And then in the last part is more about what I do currently in my job, I guess.
Oh.
So it's something in the lines of, I use my financial reporting skills in order to put together reports and which then provides insights to the stakeholders in order for them to make decisions. But I probably need to phrase that a bit better.
I think that can be wordsmithed, and providing reports isn't a great landing place. It's more that I create these reports in order to provide some sort of what kind of analysis, and what kind of insights for decision makers to really make the best decision possible in moving forward.
Sure, that sounds really good. Thank you very much.
That's where your sweet spot is, basically. Okay, let's do another one. Daniel, you wanted to go.
Sure.
Yeah.
I use my intellect and knowledge to create high quality software. Known for efficiency and quality, I use a systematic, detail-oriented, efficient approach to deliver high quality software.
Okay. First of all, good use of English, high quality versus quality. That you didn't, but I'm going to say a little vague.
Okay.
Okay. We want to ground this in something specific as well. Okay. I don't want to be able to say, Daniel and Career, you know something, you have about the same story. I want to remember something more. So for example, with Arena, task-oriented really came out as something that she is all about. We could even get into more detail about that, perhaps. Finding one or two key words that are unique to you and to tie in to what your experiences have been is great, because then that's what you're delivering.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So I'm being tough on this because
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
To elevate and to be able to communicate a unique story to people.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
About it, we'll come back to you. Career, would you go?
Hi, me?
Yeah.
I couldn't write anything down because I am not able to write now, but
Okay.
I made up in my mind a little bit about it.
Okay.
So I use my reasoning and imagination to build higher valued products known for my thank you. Known for my strong bias to action and accurate prioritization. Can I show it? Can I see it again, please?
Let's see. I think that's in the chat room that he put that up, which was great.
Yes.
If you click open the chat room, it should be there.
Yeah. Yeah, I use
Thank
my
you, Zach.
reason, imagination for creating high-valued products, known for my strong bias to action and my accurate prioritization skills. Using my project management and product management skills, I provide value by creating products that give high value to consumers, I think. Yeah.
What kind of consumers?
Kind of consumers, retail consumers.
Okay. Accurate is the word that I got out of that.
Mm-hmm.
As my takeaway, that you're to accuracy, basically. And I asked about what kind of consumers, because again, that was a vague term, and it wasn't grounded yet, so that I understood what you were about in that way. So I think pretty good job. I think this is one of those that you can go even like, why is accuracy even important to you?
Because I think that I'm a good analytic person, and throughout my whole career, I reflected good accuracy on analytical projects. For example, I was working for ice cream job in Unilever
Yeah.
as a project manager for opening a second facility in Turkey. And then I projected a consumer demand. I made an analytical ARIMA forecasting model,
Yeah.
and which resulted in the highest accuracy of all time for 25 years of brand in Turkey. And then the project came in successful because of that, because of a high accuracy in
Excellent.
yeah, excellent. Okay.
Kinnear, okay, you get it. Okay. You can tell that story, you know, some variation on that story, right?
Mhm.
How accuracy, something that you are passionate about, accuracy also brings success to the people you bring those skills to. It brings success by, for example, being able to have the accurate numbers in opening an ice cream, what is it, factory, sorry, factory in Israel. Unilever experienced the most accurate predictions, basically, of what it would take to open it, and it became a successful opening.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah, I think I should improve my storytelling about that.
yeah, I think it's a great example, mainly in that it taps into what is important to you. So,
Mhm.
so accuracy being the key word to build this statement around.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Hari, would you like to go?
Yes, I'll go. So I wrote, I use my analytical and problem solving skills for solving business problems at scale. Known for looking at the big picture as well as focusing on the details, I ensure that the needs of all stakeholders are met. And using my technical expertise and wide-ranging domain knowledge, I give strategic insights to key decision makers.
Wide-ranging, what kind of knowledge?
Domain knowledge.
Domain knowledge. What is your domain?
Education as well as retail. So I worked in both. I have a consulting background as well. So I've worked across different industries.
Okay. You're being a little vague, I'm going to say. Okay.
Sure.
I
Okay.
think you're falling into Daniel's category
Okay.
of saying words that sound that I'm not saying they're not you. Okay.
Right.
But this needs to get grounded in something a little deeper.
Right.
Okay. And I'm not clear on which thing it is right now when I'm listening to you.
Got it.
So I'm not going to grab onto it, but I'm going to challenge you to find what that is. It may be the domains. It may be something about the domains that drives you. So I thought about that.
Right.
It sounded like you were going in several directions, though. That, you know, dealing with stakeholders being a good thing, big project, you know, small details being another aspect of it.
Right.
And your domains, which I had to ask you about, maybe is another aspect of it. I'm not quite sure.
Right.
One of these or a combination of these.
So the idea would be to focus on a few rather than talk about a lot.
Well, get clear on the most important one, and that thematic will come through the others as well.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Blanca, would you like to go? I'm not sure if you can hear. I saw that you had written in before. I'm going to unmute you, but I'm not sure if she can talk. Okay, it's not working. Okay, we're going to go back to regular. Hey, oh, any questions now that I have you all up, though, at this point? No? Okay. Somehow there's still, are we still all together? Okay. Okay, can everybody hear me still?
Yes.
Okay, great. Give me 1 second then. Okay. So something else I'd like us, oh, is not going that fast there. 1 second. There. So one of the things I also want you to consider when you're joining a job, and this thing on the right side is called a stakeholder map, and you can go online and look for a stakeholder map yourself. This is just an example of one. But this is about when you're in a new workplace, you're at one right now, what are the alliances that you need to create to make yourself successful, to be able to see through your goals? And and this is just a breakdown to give you some sense of this, basically. Some of these people that you have to work with are not so important, basically, and all you need to do is show consideration for them. So in this case, the bottom right are those types of people for this particular job that I'm just giving as an example, okay? The main point of this is start to identify who is important to you, basically, where your interests should lie, where their interests lie as well, getting a sense of what's driving them, as well as what's driving yourself. And creating this little graph is kind of an interesting way to start thinking about what are the priorities here, basically. What are the priorities of all these different people that I work with, and how can I make their lives better or simpler, not just my own? Why can't I move this thing? Give me a second here. There. Okay. So, and also setting up, beginning to work somewhere, we want to establish the A item priorities. So this is breaking things down into the first 12 to 18 months, the major things that you need to identify, that you need to accomplish, basically, during that time. Identifying the center of gravity. This is looking for where can you get wins early, basically. Let's say that your goal is to launch a website, for example, that's the project, basically, that the end project. But it's a big, complicated website. Figuring out what are the smaller steps along the way that are going to be visible, that you can, that are benchmarks, basically, so that then this isn't just project management, it's being a little more strategic, not just saying, oh, that's the first one that needs to be done, of course, but looking for what are the forms that, what can be pointed to as like, this has been accomplished in some fashion, and this is a win, basically, and this is the progress that I'm trying to make towards launching the website. It may be simply enough buying the domain, okay, or locking up 15 domains because they haven't made the decision what domain to use yet, and how you went about like deciding which domains are good for them to lock down. So initiating pilot projects, this is all about also ownership, basically. Getting a sense of what is it that you want to win, basically, and structuring it as a project, basically, as something that you can look to as an accomplishment along the way. So one of the challenges I told you in working with people on their resumes is getting a sense of what their achievements are. Some people are like, they don't understand what their achievements are at all. And I have the experience of being on jobs where I've written down all the different achievements. My God, you forget them like so quickly also. Like within 3 months, you could forget what you did 3 months ago and forget that it was an achievement. And I do recommend writing these things down as you go, because if you're anything like me, the memory of like, oh yeah, I did that, becomes not a big deal, but the truth is they can be big deals, you know, to show off. And so writing these things down basically, but thinking of them all as little projects. Little projects, how did you go about them? What did you achieve? What kind of results did you get? Keeping that in mind from the very beginning, basically, will serve you really well. So ultimately, some of what, I just need to move one thing down so I can see. Some of what I am referring to for a lot of this is about goal setting, basically. This is actually a logo that the Army uses, or the Armed Forces in the United States use when they're setting goals. So getting very specific about what you want to do, making sure that you set some sort of measurement in mind to begin with as to when you will know you have success. Making sure that it's achievable. So understanding what's in your power to create and what will not be in your power to create. So adjusting based on that, being, as the next one says, is realistic, basically. But I would add with realistic, it's also relevant. Relevant or realistic, you could do. You know, is this relevant to what you want to achieve? It may be realistic, but is it also something that is in the purview that that's of interest to you, basically? And the other thing is about timing, really having a sense of, if you're taking on a new job, what is the timing of getting things accomplished, basically, at that place? Or how long do you even want to be there? You know, maybe you only want to be there a year, and you're setting out the goals for yourself during that time period, including, I want to get all of this done by this time, and I want to look for a new job 3 months to the end of that, and I will have had X to show before I start looking for this new job that will be maybe more aligned with whatever my vision is. So this is just stuff to keep in mind as far as goals go, and about being as specific as you can about goals when you take on a new job and as you move forward in your career. I think there's, I'm not recommending this necessarily, but I have a friend who, he went to graduate school with me for filmmaking. He came out of the news world, actually. Decided Hollywood wasn't for him and moved back to New York and started working for emergency services in the city of New York, and was there during 9/11. And now he works for FEMA. He loves what he's doing, basically. He's found his place. But this man, what was always interesting to me about him, and I think it was a great lesson for people, is that no sooner would he land someplace than he would start looking for what's next. Where am I going next with this? What do I need out of it to get to that next thing, basically? He's managed incredible multiple careers in doing this, and I think is now, like, you know, pretty satisfied actually with where he is and what he's doing at this point. But I always respected the fact that he didn't, there was always a bigger picture in mind as to where he was going, and he was never going to just do the job and have the loyalty to the company or put all of those things as more of a priority than him moving towards a vision of what he wanted for himself. And he took missteps along the way, and he took great steps along the way that made it happen. But keeping that in mind, staying a little uncomfortable as you move forward in your career, a little uncomfortable somewhere, unless you're getting everything that you want from that place, basically. Keep that sense of discomfort to keep driving you forward so that you can reach your goals. Complacency is death. Okay, so, a couple other things. This is just a reference book that great to learn from, basically, if you are interested in knowing more about what I just talked about. I've taken a few ideas from him, basically. So I wanted to reference him. And I wanted to know if there's any questions now, or any sort of, Andrea, you just explained so much. How am I supposed to keep up with that? Yes, Irina.
I'm always quite curious about, like, at the moment I'm investing a lot of time in like learning or finding out how to get a mentor. And
Okay.
I have tried with several people, and some people say, yeah, let's go for a coffee. Well, when we were able to go for a coffee, obviously. But then they obviously get too busy or something happens, and I never get any replies back or something like that. So I'm still trying, but
Keep trying. So what's happening? You're asking for coffee, but then you're not actually meeting?
yeah, usually a bit in those lines, or yeah.
So one of the things that's important to do in choosing the person is to find something that you have in common with them to begin with. This is true for informational interviews also. You want to draw, the lines together. Maybe you grew up in the same area, maybe you went to the same school, maybe your children are doing something in common. Who knows what it is, but you want to make sure that that commonality is put forefront, so that they feel a little bit more of a connection. The other thing is,
Right.
you're in charge of making sure the coffee happens. Whether it's an informational interview or asking for a mentorship, you're in charge. You're setting the agenda, and you're running the meeting. Okay? You're interviewing them, essentially, for this position as well, is something you should consider. That it's not them interviewing you, do I want to do it, but you interviewing them, are you capable of doing this? Would you like to do this? Are you, I really want to learn from you. Are you willing to share? So what I would challenge you with, Irina, is just a little bit of a mind shift with this, okay? That this is something that you want, and you're interviewing these people to see if they can help you with it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure. Any other questions at all?
One thing I would like to add to your comments on Irina's questions, because I have always had several mentors from my university times, and currently I have two mentors. One of them is from my high school, and one of them is from my university, and especially from the guy, Mr. Kerem. Kerem, we have a relationship for more than 3 years, 3 whole years, uninterruptedly. And I think this happened because we unlocked how to. I think that we uncovered. No, we explored how I can as well add value to his life. For example, I know his interests, and I research and find many things about his interests and share whenever I find them. I comment on the recent lifetimes that might interest him, and share my ideas so that he also can understand how my generation thinks about those things around the world, because we have a generation difference. And also he has two daughters, who are younger than me, and I also give advices for their career and school development, so that he can learn more recent things, recent developments about his daughter's environment. So we both have achieve, receive value from each other. So that's what
Beautiful.
makes it, yeah, that's what makes it continuous.
Kinnear, beautifully said. I think you are bringing up something that's important for everybody to know, networking wise, that when you are networking, although Irina, I said that you need the mindset that you're interviewing, which is true because you're just starting to get this. Networking is most successful, not when you're asking, but when you're figuring out how to connect, how to give, what you can do for them too. That solidifies the connection, basically. Touching base with people when you have no problems whatsoever, but everything's going great, you know, and you want to just share something lovely that's going on. These are the things that make connections deeper. And Kinnear, wonderful example. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I have another question if we have a little bit time.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm trying to change my career and so my personal brand is reflecting a little bit different from my background into my future. And I'm not really quite sure about how to support my current personal brand for the job that I'm looking for.
Okay, so what is the difference? What do you see as the difference for where you're going to? You were doing
Like
product.
I would like to work for AI applications. So I chose the now degree of AI product manager.
Okay.
And basically I'm moving from project management to product management with another within another domain.
Okay.
I've always been working for the retail industry domain. Now I'm moving into technology with AI applications and product management, specifically product owner I would like to become. So there is a little bit discrepancy between those kinds of personal brands, and I'm not really sure about how I can support it with my already background.
First of all, just so you know, my impression of it is actually it's all, you're just wanting more ownership. It's all kind of the same thing on some level.
Actually, yes, but they always
and different tools.
Yeah, but in interviews and job posts, I always see that they would like to have the exact same experience beforehand that I don't.
Sometimes it's about the experience. Sometimes it's about the wording also. So for example, in product management, some of the wording they use is like road mapping, right?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to strategic thinking. That roadmap is a key word generally in product management jobs, that you've had experience with that. So some of what you're trying to do is you're trying to sync up the wording, the terminology that they're using to terminology that you may be using from your old area, from project management basically, versus product management. So that's one aspect of it, is helping them by translating it into the language that they are looking for. On a very practical level, with resumes, we're talking about keywords and we're talking about computers reading these things or human beings, and all they're looking for are keywords. They're looking for the right keywords. You can't let them interpret for you. You've got to give them as much of a sync as is possible. When you described what you were moving towards, what I heard is, I've taken on a new tool and I want to have fuller ownership from the beginning to end of a project in the technology space rather than retail space.
Mhm.
Is that about right?
Yes.
Okay. It's not a big stretch career-wise. We're not pivoting hugely where you're going with things, but it is important that you use the words that they understand and as associated with product management in the description of what your achievements are.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I get it. I'm trying to do that actually, but I'm not sure that I'm doing it correct way.
Oh,
But I will talk with you in a more detail when we get one-on-one.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was about to say, do a one-on-one. I have a tool you can use, and there are definitely ways you can do it and figure it out, whether you're in sync or not.
Okay, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
just one more thing, one more question about, so let's say I just figured out how to communicate my new personal brand. I figured out, discovered it, but I'm not sure if we should simply tell the exercise like thing to the interviewers, or should we just imply them that we built that?
So I gave a format for us to
Yeah.
play with, okay? I'm not saying this needs to be how you present it. What I wanted it to do was touch on some of the ideas for you to define and to wordsmith basically, and to find words to hang your description off of. And so that when you meet interviewers, you're not, the main thing is you're not giving them your resume, which they have in front of them. In a sense, you're giving them maybe a highlight, like you had a marvelous story about Unilever, right?
Thank
That story was an example of something greater about you, Kinnear.
you.
And you want to express what that greater thing is so that they know, this is what I'm getting with Kinnear. I am getting an accuracy guru, who's just all over it. And he did this with retail, and now he wants to do it in IT, and he's like obsessed with technology. Okay, now I have some impression, that's different than that. I don't care where you went from place to place, in a sense. What I care is what is driving you, what you're passionate about, and how you're bringing that to people. Whether it be in one domain or another, and how you're tying that together for them as a story about yourself. So
Yeah.
the wording that I put, no, not important. The ideas of what's driving you, getting to the heart of that and sharing a little story around it, and using a Unilever as the example, perhaps, wordsmithing that to be succinct, is good.
All right. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Thank you very much for joining today, and for being open enough also to share your stories, and for us to go through this together. I know this is not easy at all to do. Once you have it, I think it's a lot like it'll feel like, oh, of course, I've got it. But it's challenging to do, because it takes looking at yourself, being honest about it, and then in a sense not exaggerating it, but deciding that's the thing. You could have also said, I'm a great cook, but I'm and an amazing meticulous cook, and this is the example of how I'm really accurate. There are different ways of telling these same stories, and different things to play on. You have to find the one that's most comfortable for you, but that communicates really what they're going to get from you worker-wise, value-wise. Okay. Thank you. I hope to see you all again, and maybe do some career coaching if we get a chance as well. Okay. Have a wonderful night or day.
Thanks
Thank
a lot
you.
for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.